You know, there's an enemy of humanity that would have us think that as soon as we're broken, we're no good anymore, and we're tossed aside, and it's over. And God tells the exact opposite story. He says, when you're broken, it's time to be picked up. It's time for the new story to start. And really, does it ever start until we get to that place of being broken? I'm not so sure it does.
In the book, the two pigs were lived with him has his mom. One built a little house with hay, one with stick, one with blocks. The wolf liked to eat pigs. He said, I will eat the pig. And he huffed and puffed in the little house below him. He ate the first little pigs, and he goes to the second. He said he puffed and puffed, and the third one he huffed and puffed. The house was solid.
It got to about 13 foot in the middle of the street there, and it was raging. It was like it was a river. It was just a raging river.
Pas de trop de victimes, mais cependant, nous ça était plus toujours tout à fait mondiaux, c'était dépéri.
We were up there for about 3 days. It wasn't rough in the sense that we didn't have food and we didn't have much food. It was rough in the sense of hearing the screams of people at night dying and drowning.
Donc c'est une situation qui rend ville Gonaïve très très vulnérable.
The interesting thing about Haiti is it's been described for the last 50 years at least as the most impoverished country in the Western Hemisphere. And it's poised right now for a new story. It's coming, and anybody that comes to this country can feel it bubbling up.
It was known as the Pearl of the Antilles, and at one point was the most valuable Caribbean island in the Western Hemisphere. The sugar trade and the coffee trade, it became fought over by the different European countries. It was the very first African free independent state. Haiti's risen to the top in 1804 to declare its independence and to self-rule. That was 50 years before Abraham Lincoln declared the Emancipation Proclamation and made slavery against the law in the United States. Gonaïve is a place that has been devastated by some natural disasters. It's been devastated by some political turmoil.
It's often said what goes down in Gonaïve is what goes down in the nation.
You have so many people who leave Haiti to go to the U.S., Canada, France. So a lot of the people that would be that kind of middle class or middle upper class, they're gone. They live in Boston, Atlanta, those places.
Jubilee is on the outskirts of Gonaïve. It's kind of pretty much the end of the road. It's where the road meets the salt flats and eventually the sea. It's pretty much where, if you don't have any other place to go, that's where you go. It's beautiful in a very raw, dusty sort of way.
A lot of it centers around, they dump trash out in a place called La Saline, which is a salted area of land. So during the floods, the water sat there so long that it salted the land. So very little, as of right now, grows out there.
Ou pas gen bon route, yo pas gen moyen pour faire besoin yo, gon problème de toilette, yo gon problème d'eau, yo gon problème d'électricité. Quand y a vivre c'est dans une situation qui est vraiment difficile.
Some of them are dirt poor, ultra poor, poor to the point where they only have one set of clothes, one pair of shoes.
The way of Jubilee is not the way of all of Haiti. It's definitely not the way of all of Gonaïve, and most of Gonaïve will never step foot in Jubilee.
You're talking about people who have houses that are falling down, no work. You have an increase in violence and sexual assault. Can't put your kids in school, can't afford any kind of health care.
Moi, dans Jubilee depuis 14 ans. Moi, depuis dans Jubilee. Les gens qui dans Jubilee 2002 sont une zone qui était très immobile. Ici tellement que humilié, parfois même loin qu'on a joué, tellement humilié.
When there's a crisis, teams come in to do immediate relief, to help as we should from all over the world. We come in with, if there's a famine, we come in with food. If there's, an earthquake, we come in with housing. Right now, we're not in that situation. Right now, Haiti is in a development mode, and it's a beautiful thing. If we were to continue to act like we are in relief mode, then we tear down development.
I came with the idea that I knew how to fix problems. And the longer I'm here, the more I realize that problems are far more complicated than we originally assumed.
We just have to get past the mindset, oh, we're here to save the day, and I'm going to come and save Haiti in 5 days.
If you work towards accomplishment in this atmosphere, you might as well buy a gun because you're going to kill yourself. It's not, you don't see enough. We have 9 failures and 1 mild success. That's the nature of what we do.
I love being able to be a part of I guess you call it a paradigm shift, where instead of seeing Jubilee for the trash that's there, but to see Jubilee for the beauty that's there.
Poverty is something that stems really from an internal place as its source, as its root, which means a lot of the questions we have to begin to ask are questions about what is going on in here first. It's one thing to alleviate a symptom. It's another thing to cure the cause. And so the questions we're asking are, what are the causes of poverty?
There is a common thread that runs through those that want to come and to throw their lot in with us. And that common thread is that they're unsatisfied to let things remain and happen as they always have.
You have to have some form of idealism to do this. The problem with that is that you have to live a life of compromise. You have to compromise your idealism because where I want to be and where I am are 2 different locations.
Poverty is more of a spirit than it is an economic state. And where people, I like to say that in poverty your hands are closed and you're afraid to open your hands because someone will take from you. Whereas a posture of abundance is that we can receive and we can give. About 4 years ago, a dear friend of ours, Emery Wilson, came here and was motivated by the need, the poverty issue in Jubilee, and began to feed hungry children. Someone came and said, boy, we need to do a school. And so out of that, a school was birthed.
Haitian schools are about 1,000 Haitian dollars a month to go to, and the people here cannot afford that. And so they were just choosing not to go to school. But if you live the cycle of not being educated, you also live the cycle of poverty.
Some children not go to school because Papa don't have no money.
We have our students pay 4 Haitian dollars every month, and it's really small. It's about 50 cents American. It's almost like we're giving them school for free, but not quite. It's enough so that the parents have to have a sense of responsibility in it. No matter how poor they are, they can find that money every month. But it's enough that it keeps them involved and it keeps them a part of their kids' education.
If you really look at it, the amount they pay for school, you can't, ain't no school in Haiti pay that amount. And the things that they do in here, you won't find no school in Haiti at all that will do that.
Jubilee School is a school of about 89 kids so far. We originally started at the kindergarten level and hoped to go all the way up through high school. But then after the first couple of years doing kindergarten as our beginning level, we realized that those kids coming in at the kindergarten level were so malnourished and so understimulated beforehand that they just weren't able to begin at the kindergarten level. And so they were actually operating more as like 3-year-olds. And so we decided to back our whole program up and start all the way back at the 3-year-old level now. So they come in at 3 years old, they get the meals, they get this mental stimulation, and so that by the time they go through 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old preschool, they're ready for actual schooling in kindergarten.
Our school has 4 Americans that work in it, and probably 4 times that many Haitian individuals and teachers and instructors and interpreters that work in it as well. It consists of 3 portions of food every day, a breakfast snack, a lunch, and then also a snack before they go home. The nutrition is really integral because the kids won't learn if they don't have food in their bellies.
I speak 2 languages, English, Creole, and French.
Creole is their base language here. French is the business language as well as the schooling language. It's the one that they take all of their tests in. But it's not their normal language. It's not the language that they speak at home, and so it's one that they have to learn in school. And then we're also teaching them English because it'll help them later on in life getting careers and advancements and things like that. Coming into a Haitian school, you're expected to rote memorize everything from the alphabet to your numbers to stories. It's not about the content of the book as much as it is memorization of the book. So when they go back through and they're asking you questions from a story, they're going to ask you to repeat entire sentences. They won't ask you what the meaning of the story is, what the purpose behind the story, or what the main character learned. They're just going to ask you to repeat exact phrases. Versus the American school, we care more about critical thinking skills and problem solving. That's something that a lot of our students don't have. In fact, some of our teachers don't even have it, and they're learning it as they go along. We care more about approaching a problem and applying it to life. And how will you see this math problem in life? How will we see, how is reading important in everyday living?
The other day, I was in Jubilee. It was like about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. School's out about 2:30 or 3. Katie was coming back into Jubilee, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And she was going to pick up twin girls who were going to be tested for the preschool program, and they were 3 years old. And she said, "You know, I really want them to pass the test. I really want them to get in school, so I've just come to spend some time with them, to get them ready, to do some stimulation exercises with them." And I think, here's a girl who works for nothing, you know, works a long day, who goes home and comes back out to pick up 2 little girls to help prepare them, 2 3-year-old girls, because they matter that much to her, that they are able to enter school next year.
In schools, when you're working, it's more about, okay, get your money, teach the kids, and just leave. But this is like more of a family thing.
They go 2nd and 3rd mile with these students because it matters. They celebrate every moment. They celebrate every good thing. You know, when a child learns to do a puzzle who had never been able to do a puzzle before, there was like a party out there. My first trip to Haiti in 2002, I think it was, we were visiting with a friend in Port-au-Prince, a missionary, Sherry Fozzie, and we had taken off to go somewhere that day in her car, and we had stopped along the side of the road close to her house, and a lady approached the car, and she had a baby in her arms, looked like about a 12-month-old baby, I guess, and she began to speak to Sherry in Creole and didn't understand her, and they talked for several minutes, and then the woman left, and we started to go again, and we said, "Sherry, what was that about?" And she said, that woman was begging us to take her child. She said, "Please know that she no more wanted to give her child away than you do." And I thought in my heart, what would I be feeling that I could hand my beautiful child away to a stranger, never to see her again? Like, what kind of desperation would I have to feel as a mother that would be the right choice?
L'hôpital, clinique, c'est un plus gros bagay qui gagne pile valeur dans la communauté.
The clinic in Jubilee is directed by Grace Deal and in tandem with Kezia Firth.
A few years ago, before Grace and I moved to Gonaive, the clinic consisted of one small room the size of an American bathroom, and it was one Haitian nurse who worked 1 day a week.
Our staff at the clinic is Haitian. We have Haitian nurses and Haitian nursing assistants that actually do the day in, day out of the clinic.
Our Haitian staff really takes care of all of the day-to-day, but I'm there for things that they're not familiar with, or just if things get particularly busy, I'm there to help out, and to do continuing training with them. So, for example, I taught them all how to suture. So now when something comes in that needs to be stitched up, I don't necessarily have to be there. They can do it without me.
One of our goals, specifically in a place like Jubilee, is to have affordable healthcare, because most places you'll go, you're going to pay about 500 good, which is about $12 to $13 US, which to us, like, that's the deal. But for most people in a place like Jubilee, that's a lot of money.
They just give you the medicine and they just, okay, take that pill. You don't even know what is the name of that pill and what is it for.
It's so much better to have Haitians help Haitians. So a lot of what we do now is through our staff, through my Haitian friends.
If I can work really hard with my 6 people who I'm working with, their sphere of influence is bigger, and then it kind of replicates as this ripple kind of idea. I love working with Haitians who not only like working with us, but believe in themselves and in the power that they have to influence other people.
My student Whistleen, who's 19 years old, graduated from my class last year. She's a senior in high school, and she now does the health education for her whole high school. It's that kind of thing, and that's just really beautiful.
When we have visiting physicians or nurses, we try to allow them to either educate our staff or work alongside our staff.
It'll come in this kind of a package?
Ya vini non paquet comme ça, non forme ça.
Or this kind of a package?
Ou yo type de paquet comme ça.
In the afternoons, I teach a nursing assistant class. So I've got about 20 students, and I'm teaching them a lot of the basic things that as Americans we've known since we were kids. That if a kid has a fever, you give them Tylenol. If you have a cut, you clean it and you put a Band-Aid on it. As well as simple things that they can do to really be like health agents in their communities. There are things that Haitians will do here that they've been taught from generation to generation to do, and it comes out of that voodoo or old wives' tales basis.
The joke in Haiti is that, Haiti is 60% Catholic, 40% Protestant, and 100% voodoo.
The side of voodoo that we see all the time is the side that you could consider old wives' tales. Voodoo becomes the explanation for anything that they can't understand. So where someone might fall down in front of us right now clutching their chest and they die because we don't have good health care here, we all know that was probably a heart attack. But to a Haitian, they have no idea, and so they're going to explain it as so-and-so sent a spirit on me, or so-and-so cursed me. Hello, nurse, my knee hurts. When you ask them, well, what happened? Did you fall down? Did you get in an accident? They tell you no. When I stepped out of my door this morning, boom, it just started to hurt. And I know who did it. It was my neighbor across the street. She's been mad at me for a long time, and she put powder in front of my door. And so when I stepped out, it was because I stepped out with my right leg first. That's why my right knee hurts.
The other thing to remember about voodoo is a lot of it's a job. We have neighbors who do ceremonies on a regular basis. They get paid to do it, and so you can pay someone to cast a spirit somewhere, or pay someone to do that kind of thing. And so it's also a money-making venture as well.
So we have folks here who have created a English as a second language academy where young men, aspiring thinkers come and learn the English language.
So if you had asked me when I first came to Haiti, would I teach English, I would have laughed, because I hated English in school. And not only that I hated it, I was terrible at it. I was so bad.
I think it's no accident that Chris was brought here to this city and that he's doing exactly what he's doing. I mean, he teaches a lot of philosophy, history, business skills as he teaches English. And so It's almost kind of covert in a way. But it's also people that speak the English language have a definite, those are the ones who get relationships with a lot of movers and shakers in this country.
The first week, nobody showed up. Second week was about the same. The third week, we had like 5 or 6 people showed up. And like they told their friends there is a free English class in Jubilee taught by native English speakers. So the fourth week, the room where we had the class was really crowded and there was no other spot even to stand in the room.
After generations and generations of men laboring but not receiving the fruit of their labor, they begin to believe that it just doesn't happen. And so the motivation is dropped and they're robbed of that sense of dreaming and pursuing their dreams with the hope that it can ever happen.
We've got 125 artisans, and I feel like we've produced approximately 25 to 30,000 goods over the last year and a half, 2 years. I wasn't so much interested in being an import-export business as I was in finding jobs or creating environments even for jobs for women, specifically in Jubilee, specifically for that area.
Nous venons ensemble avec groupe missionnaire, nous aider famille nous. Nous prêtons nous l'école, nous habiller yo, nous ba yo manger, nous aider d'autres monde qui pas capable.
Moi venu dans Jubilee pour aider mesdames capables coudre et puis faire valise, yo capable prendre donc aider tête yo et aider famille qui vivent là-dedans.
The way it's happening now is I'll get an order from Second Story Goods in the U.S. and we need, 450 medium burlap journals, we need 60 more necklaces, we need that, and then we'll fill that order here. So then I'll say to Mafi or to the different guilds, this is what we need, and they will build to that order. They get paid every week for whatever I pick up. That's what they get the funds for. So they get paid in full at the time that I receive the goods.
Moi, je fais dans l'atelier, nous travaillons avec un groupe de 25 personnes.
A young man came to me and had these beautiful journals that he had made, large journals, books, and just to see if I was interested in buying one. And I asked him where he lived, and he lived in Jubilee, and I asked him if he could teach that skill, and his response was no problem. So I said, okay, let's do a class. And so we funded a class, actually about, I think 4 classes that ran about 2 weeks apiece, and we invited whosoever would come to come and learn this skill. And that's kind of what's happened is it starts out as a class, and then if they're viable and they come up with, a viable product, it becomes a business, a group, a guild that works together and basically sells together.
Souvent, moun qu'on a fait petit business, yo pas qu'à grandir et ça crasé, mais nous voulons montrer des stratégies pour que petit business tant qu'on plante.
To watch these women go from I don't have anything to watching these pretty wealthy Americans fighting for, I want that piece. No, I saw them first. It's just unimaginable, the beauty that sparks there.
Kathy and I / Much Ministries is in a bit of a transition right now as we are moving out of what has been the normalcy of hosting teams and having people come in and focus on having an experience with the ultra poor of Ghana. And we're going to do a development project that will focus on job creation and stimulating business ideas and working with those who dare to dream. In Haiti, so many people don't dare to dream because of the painful reality that their dreams seem to not be able to gain footage, to gain traction.
There's 3 guys in particular that if I lay awake at night dreaming for those boys, it is that in a couple of years when they're men, that they are men of their community and they are men that are able to lead their families and that they are able to lead Jubilee beyond where Jubilee is now.
I have a knowledge base and I have resources that people don't have. And whether that's people in Haiti or people in other places, it really doesn't matter that much to me. Haiti's where I am right now, and so Haiti's where I'm serving. But if 2 years from now I end up somewhere else, I'm going to live the same way and I'm going to be doing the same things.
People are born for certain things. I was born for this, you know. I feel the presence of God in the midst of, you know, human suffering, and so He put me in a place where there was a lot of that.
It's not easy. Sometimes it's darn well not fun, but it's true life. It's real life. It's how we get things done. Is we do them together. I don't know how to put it into words. It's a beautiful mess that we're all putting our hands in together and trying to figure it out, and sometimes we make a mess, but it's good. It's a good mess.
Are we sacrificing? Not so sure.
On montre le chemin. Je veux pas vivre en vain. Je veux un sens à ma vie. Je veux accomplir mon destin. Un jour.